Hello everyone, my name is Nathan, and if you're a subscriber, welcome back to my channel. Today, I'm going to be taking you through my brand new reading journal and how I'm setting up for 2026. So right here in front of me, I have a brand new reading journal. This is from Archer and Olive. I got this at the end of 2025, and I've been slowly over the past couple weeks setting everything up to be the way that I want it. So a little bit of context, I began doing a reading journal like mid 2025, and I like really wanted to get into it for 2026. So what I've been doing with this reading journal is basically retroactively setting up. So it's my 2025 slash 2026 reading journal. So I've been adding in all my pages from my previous journal and then putting them into this, and I'll put some image ups on the screen of what those look like. So this is from, I think it's called like their Field Mouse collection or something. I've never bought anything from Archer and Olive. Apparently, there's a whole lot of lore that I have missed out on when it comes to purchasing products from this company. I guess they do limited time drops. I'm not even sure if this particular journal is still available or not. I don't know. Apparently, there's a whole lot more into it that I was not aware of when it comes to the journaling space, but it took me forever to narrow down that this was the one I wanted, the size that I wanted, everything like that. So I've seen that a whole bunch of other people have done book journals using Archer and Olive journals, so that's why I picked one. Also, the pages are thicker in this journal as opposed to just regular ones that you would write in. So you're going to see that I have a lot of things glued down or taped down or a lot of other additional kind of scrapbook features inside of this that I wanted to have, and having the thicker pages just makes it a little more sturdy. That being said, this is very thick so far, and it's going to continue to get even more thick. It's got a huge lump kind of in the middle of it from where I've begun adding things. So let's go ahead and get right into what I have inside of it. How have I set up this journal for myself? So opening it up, I have set this up to be exactly the way that I want it to be, and that is not the way that it will be for every single person out there. So I hope that you get some inspiration for this, and that maybe influences how you want to start journaling. And if you're watching this at some point in the middle of a year, you can start journaling whenever you want. I started doing just a digital reading journal in like July of 2025, and didn't start doing it physically until like November, December time. So if you want to start off doing something digital like I did and then move into something physical, you can do that. There's no rules when it comes to this. Don't let anyone tell you that you don't have to start it on a specific day or a specific time of year or anything like that. Just start doing whatever you want. This is all for fun, right? We're all here to have fun doing this. So I chose to do kind of a Hobbit hole, Lord of the Rings theme to my journal layout for like the general pages, and then each book that I have an entry for kind of has its own theme to it. So on my very first page here, I have this really fun little book plate that it's meant to go inside of different books to like write your name inside of it, and I just chose to put inside here because I really like the little mouse detail on it, and it also goes with the mouse detail on the cover of the journal. So I put a nice little border around it, and then I put a stamp on here that has gotten really, really smeared from my hand working on this, and it made me realize that I need to have a piece of paper under my hand when I'm working with stamps on the page, or to do stamps as the last thing you do on the page, because they will smear on your page. So the first thing I have is a little quote. This is from a Harry Potter book. It says, "Words are my not so humble opinion, our most inexhaustible source of magic, capable of both inflicting injury and remedying it." So I just felt that was a nice little intro to reading, and my reading just supposed to like influence like your reading vibes and get you kind of in that mood to write about, get you into the creative mood, right? And a lot of journaling is writing. So I thought that that made a lot of sense. So first page I have is very Lord of the Rings inspired. This is in kind of an elvish font that I found online, and it says reading journal inside of it. And what I actually did was I wrote out what I wanted on my iPad, and I kind of used my iPad as a light board. So I turned the brightness up really bright, and then I just stuck it underneath the page and traced out what I wanted on that page, like from my iPad. So I found a graphic of this ring, and then using that kind of elvish font that I found online in an app called Procreate, I typed out what I wanted and then slid my iPad underneath the page and then traced over the lettering. Um, I think it looks nicer that way. It made it more fun for me. If it's more fun for you to trace out the letters yourself, my handwriting is not the neatest to capture things like that. I wanted to look nice, so that's what I did. But you don't have to do it if you don't want to. And then I put some stamps down here with some trees and stuff on it, and then just made this nice little border with some vines and some little flowers and stuff all over it. So my next page, these are all of my 2025 reads condensed onto 2 pages. So I read 26 books in 2025. What I did was I went ahead and made a little star rating for each one of them, and then put a miniature book cover that I printed out on my HP Sprocket printer. And I just cut them out and plopped them right down on top of these pages. I also added some stamps around it and some little mountains and everything. It's giving very Lord of the Ring, very Hobbit hole-esque. And I also like it because I can see all the books that I read in case I forget about one, and I can see exactly what I rated them in case I ever want to go back and just see it all right in one page in front of me. A couple of things to note is I don't give ratings necessarily to nonfiction books, especially when they're like memoirs of someone's life, such as Tulsi Gabbard's book. Like, that was like a memoir of her life. I don't really feel like that's fair to give a rating for it, so that's why those are left empty. But I just think it looks very nice. And I had a couple extra spaces here of books that I thought I was going to get to in 2025, and I just ran out of time. So flipping to our next page, and this is a very thick page. You can see how it is very strong. I have my 2025 goals as well as my standout read of the year for 2025. So my goal for 2025 was to read 12 books. I was not a reader really before 2025. It was my goal in 2025 to get more into books, more into reading, and kind of re-center my life around getting some reading in every single day. So I thought setting a goal of 12 books would be really good, and it was definitely achievable, 1 book a month, and I ended up blowing that goal out of the water, and I ended up reading a total of 26 books. So this is my kind of little year in review right here of my goal at the beginning of the year, and then my book, the amount of books I actually ended up reading. So then I also have my page that has my standout read of the year on it, which is What If It's Us by Becky Arbitali and Adam Silvera. This was the very first book that I read in 2025. It definitely got me back into reading. I must say I'm probably a little bit biased because it was the first book I read of the year, but I kept thinking about it throughout the entire year, and I really stayed in my mind. I really enjoyed the story. It was such a cute story, and I highly suggest you go and watch my tier list video. It'll be up in a card somewhere around here if you want to hear my full thoughts on this book. So flipping to the next page, I have my kind of miniature bookshelf, which is kind of set in like a little hobbit hole, and then I've made a little mini version of each of the books I read, and I've kind of spaced them around based on how much I like them and kind of where I would rank them on ratings and everything. So all my favorite books are kind of towards the top, and then towards the bottom are the books I didn't like so much. So over time, I will slowly fill up this bookshelf with little miniature books, because a lot of the reading that I do on my Kindle and not in the physical book. So I don't have the physical bookshelf that has all these books on it. And then on the next page over here, I have all my authors read. So I have an entry here that has every single author that I read in 2025, as well as how many books from them I read, and then kind of what their average rating was for me in case I read any of their books in 2026. I can add that into there and kind of see if my rating of them changes based upon if I read any more books from them or not, or how many books from these different authors I end up reading in 2025 versus 2026. See kind of how my reading habits change. This, I think, is going to be one of my favorites. I am such a data nerd. I love learning about my habits and trends and everything, and just seeing how much I'm reading, how much my reading has changed over time. So this is my average pages and reading time for both 2025 and 2026. So on the left here, I have January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December. And then on the uh, kind of on the colors here, I have average pages per day that I read in that month, the amount of hours that I read that month, and the days that I read in that month. So you can see here towards the end of the year, the amount of days that I read went way up because ever since August, I have had a reading streak where I have read every single day of the year. So I'm on a 180. I think today is day 180 of my reading streak. So six solid months at this point of reading every single day. And it honestly, it might have started in July and then it just pulled over into August. But August was the first full month that I read every single day in. So as you can see, these colors here, I have these kind of more pastel colors are all my 2025 days. And then underneath them, as the months go by, I will fill out for 2026. And I use an app called Bookly to track all of my reading, and it keeps track of the amount of hours you read, the amount of books you read, the days that you read, and all that. So I just get that data from that app and just plop it right inside of here. So presumably, because I'm trying to read more this year than last year, all of these bars should be a lot farther along than they were for 2025. So I think it'll be fun because I'll be able to look back at the end of 2026 and see, okay, in January 2025, I only read 30 hours, but in January 2026, I might have read 45 hours, for example, right? So this should be a fun page, and this is just kind of how I laid it out. I didn't necessarily intend to actually lay it out this way. It just kind of worked out that way for some reason. I had the thought kind of halfway through that I could combine the data from the years and do these kind of bar charts for both years all on the same page. So it just worked out very nicely that I had space and everything for it. All right, my next page is my series tracker page. This is the first one that I did a Dutch door on. So right here, I have all of the series that I have started reading. I have a box for it, and then I highlight them as I get through the books. So in 2025, I did read the first two Harry Potter books, but I have this right here because I'm saving this for the Harry Potter audiobooks that are coming out on Audible, the full cast audio recording. So that's why none of those are highlighted. But everything else was from the previous year. And I think it looks really nice. I really like this page. I know I'm going to probably get into a lot of series, and I have a habit, as you can see, of starting series and not necessarily finishing them. But Assassin's Blade, as well as I guess it just the Throne of Glass series, I'm not going to finish. I DNF'd Assassin's Blade. I read through all of Throne of Glass, and it just wasn't for me. So, but Lord of the Rings will be finished off really fast in 2026. And the only series I did read all of them was the What If It's Us series. I read both of those books in 2025. So I cleared out that series. It's nice and filled up. So I figured that I would give myself some extra room because having just 2 pages felt not like enough for me. So I have some extra growing room in case I start with a bunch of series I don't have finishing. And then I used a lot of these really nice stamps that I got. So I found these 2 stamps on Amazon. I'll try to link them down below if you want to use them yourself. But they very much feel like Hobbit Hole to me. Hobbit Hole, or like even like Winnie the Pooh. I don't know why. It feels like this kind of feels like Winnie the Pooh's house. I feel like I saw an illustration where he kind of like lived in like a tree stump or something. It kind of feels like a little mound of dirt with a tree growing out there. So same thing with this page. I put my iPad underneath. I typed out the letters I wanted and I just traced over them. To make it look really nice and professional. All of the border, you can see that I did all of this myself freehand. Same with the stamps, I just stamped it down exactly how I wanted it. And everything else, all the writing and stuff I did freehand except for kind of these big, bold, black letters. All right, moving on to the next page, I have my 2026 reads, which also has a Dutch door. My goal for 2026 is to read 40 different books, hence why I have this Dutch door right here. 2025 looked very similar. It was just 2 pages. This you can see very similar. I don't have the stamps yet for 2026 because I want to see how much I'm going to fill it first. When I did this page, I knew how many books I was going to have on here because I did towards the end of the year. So I put the stamps right on right away. This one I'm leaving it open just in case I want to go all the way down to the edges of these pages with books, depending on how many I fit on here. But this should be more than enough room to fit 40 mini book covers. Next up, I also have my goals for 2026. As you can see, they're very similar to my 2025 page. 2026 goals, read 40 books. When I finish my goal, I will fill in on this piece of paper right here how many books I end up reading. And then my standout read of 2026 will go right here. And obviously, since we're not at the end of 2026 yet, we don't know what that is. You're going to have to tune in to my yearly reading wrap up, which will come out in December, to find out what that'll be. And then my next page is my planned reads of 2026 as well as my 6 in 26. I've seen some people do, I think they've called it their 12 picks for 2026, and they picked out like 12 books they know they want to read. 12 was a lot. I mean, when I'm trying to read 40 books, having to set aside 12 of them for what I'm definitely going to read and like lock myself into those things seemed like a lot. That was like over a fourth of my total reads for the year. So I picked 6. 6 and 26 sounded more fun to me. So my 6 and 26 is George Orwell's 1984, The Return of the King, Last Lord of the Rings book I have not gotten into yet, Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451, Project Hail Mary, which I just started yesterday, and then The Will of the Many, which I am looking forward to. All of these. These are very anticipated for me. There are kind of 3 on here that I feel like are very like classics and 3 kind of like newer books. I understand that like Lord of the Rings is like a classic, but feels like a little bit newer to me. Really, the only 2 newer ones are The Will of the Many and Project Hail Mary. So it just seemed, I don't know. I've been really looking forward to reading these books. And then I suppose I could have done 12 picks for 2026 because I do have like over like 12 books just on this page alone. But these are my planned reads for 2026. And let me explain what's happening here. So I have a plan to reread Harry Potter as well as the Heartstopper books. The full cast audio recordings of Harry Potter have been coming on Audible over the past few months, and I'm listening to one of those a month as a treat. I've started listening to Philosopher's Stone, and I'm absolutely loving it. It is so lovely and fun. It feels like I'm listening to a movie. I love it. And so I'm going to listen to one of those a month as a little treat, my little audiobook treat. And then the last Heartstopper book, Volume 6, doesn't even have the cover out yet. It's coming out on July 7th. I'm a huge Heartstopper fan. So I want to do a Heartstopper reread. And basically, if I reread one of the Heartstopper books every single month, that'll get me into July, and they'll also have that as a little treat as well. The reason why I didn't make any of these, like my 6 and 26 or like my 12 picks for 2026, or like anything like that, is I've read all these books before. And the Heartstopper books are short to read. They're not very long. It takes me like a day or 2 to read one of them. And the Harry Potter books are audiobooks. So I feel like they don't really count. I feel like if it's going to be like a most anticipated read of the year, I have to read it with my eyes, not with my ears. So that was my reasoning. But it's my journal. I'm going to do whatever the heck I want with it. So with your journal, you can do it however you want. But with my journal, I'm going to do it the way that I want to. That's why I did it the way I did. All right. And then I left a couple blank pages right here in case I think of anything else throughout the year I want to add on here. So gave myself a little bit of growing room right in this section. And then finally, I have my reading streak tracker for 2025. So you can see all the days that I read on. And then the circles are the days that I finished reading books. This is not totally finished. I have to go through and some circles because I did finish books, obviously, in other months other than October, November, and December. But this is kind of how I did it. I think it came out very nice. I like the way it looks. And then this page is very similar to my kind of intro page that I had at the very beginning that says reading journal. This one just says 2025 on it. And then this gets into all of my 2025 reads. So what I've done for this is I've just done a very scrapbook look to the way that I wanted to have these laid out. And just I decorated with my heart. And you can see that when I close this book, my writing for this book right here did not fully dry, and it added some marks onto this page. Which one? That's okay. It's supposed to be fun. Do it however you want to. So I decorated with my heart. The only consistent thing I kind of did was I printed out a picture of the book cover on my HP Sprocket. and I kind of put a little border frame around it. I stuck it down kind of onto one of the top corners, and then I drew with one of my, these are POSCA Uni Pozak markers, and I have a gold one, and I just kind of drew some stars on there to make it look fun. And I also have down here, I have pages, the amount of pages the book was, the average amount of pages I read per day, and then the dates that I read the book, so I can kind of go back and see what I was reading in what month, how long it took me to read it. I can tell by the amount of pages I read per day how fast I was reading the book. So this book I really, really like, so I read almost 40 pages of it every single day. This book I didn't like so much. I only read around 20 pages per day with this one. Um, so, and, pause to look at anything that you'd like. So I've only done the first few books of my 2025 years so far. So these are the 2 Harry Potter books I read in 2025. First Hobbit book, or the first Lord of the Rings book, however you want to look at it, and then Throne of Glass, and then these are all the reviews. These are all the spreads that I've done so far for 2025. And then for 2026, basically, the way I'll do it is I will have spread after spread after spread for 2025, and then I will have a page that will look just like this, and then all my 2025 reads. And as you can see, I still have plenty of room for spreads and all that. So I should have more than enough, even with having, around 12 or 14 more books that are spreads for 2025. I'll have plenty of room for 2026. So the only other things I wanted to mention was when I ordered this journal, you had an option to add, I don't know if this is called like an embellishment or engraving or something, but it's basically like stamped into the book. And usually, they suggest people like put their names or something on the front of it. Since this is my reading journal, I decided to put reading journal on the front of it. And so they stamped in there. It was an extra charge. I think it was like $8 extra, which is a little much, but it was worth it to me. I wanted it. It makes it feel a little bit more special. Nothing on the back, and nothing really on the inside, other than they included this pocket back here that, I don't know what you're supposed to use this for, but it kind of opens up and you can slide maybe some paper, some stickers or something back there. I don't use it for anything. And then in the front, there's kind of this nice pattern with the flowers and everything. And then it also includes a couple of bookmarks on here as well. Overall, I feel like this journal is really high quality. Like, the cover feels very nice. It's a faux leather cover. I think they call it vegan leather. It feels very sturdy and strong. I like that it's an actual hardcover. A lot of journals I was finding, they were really soft and floppy. I wanted one that was very sturdy and book-like. I mean, as you can see, like, I have so much stuff glued down to these pages. I wanted the pages to be really strong and not tear really easily or anything, and they definitely haven't. I have not had an issue with anything bleeding through any of these pages. That being said, I did my research on the markers. I have markers from Copex that I use for professional artwork that I've done all throughout my time in school. Those do not work on these pages. They do bleed through, but they are oil-based markers. These ones by Uni, they are water-based markers. These ones do not bleed through at all. I can draw directly on these pages. All of this greenery that I've put around here, this was all used using these markers. In fact, it might have been this marker right here. And as you can see, it did not bleed through at all. There's some marking right here on this page, but that's because the ink that was on top of this page stuck down to this one. So I highly suggest that when you're drawing, let your page dry thoroughly before you close your book. Otherwise, you're going to have that happen. If you don't care, then you don't care, right? So we'll probably be getting another one of these journals at the end of 2026 to use for my 2027 reading journal, because I have a feeling I'm going to mostly fill this bad boy up by the end of the year. If you want to see all of the products and kind of how I organize my reading journaling, I would watch this video right up here. There's a card somewhere around here that has a link to my reading journal cart setup video where I go over, I purchased this huge IKEA cart and I put all my journaling supplies onto it. So that's a really good video if you want to kind of see what my setup looks like and my workflow for how I do my pages. I'm also going to be doing videos throughout the year of updating my reading journal. So if you want to watch those as well, please subscribe to this channel. If you got some ideas for how you want to set up your reading journal based off of mine, let me know in the comments down below. I would love to hear what your thoughts are and if you used any of my ideas to kind of influence how you want to set your journal up. And if you have recommendations for pages that you must have in your reading journal, what you have to have inside of it, if there was something I left out, I want to hear about those as well. I want to hear what other people are putting in theirs. So if you made it this far into the video, comment down below and leave me the book emoji if you made it to this point so I can see whoever made it to the end. But with that, I will see you all in the next video. Please subscribe, share with friends, like the video. All that helps me out so much. I love making these videos. They're so much fun to make. And I will see you in the very next video. Bye.